The Atlantic coast begins as a world untouched by the city that will one day stand here. Sand dunes stretch beneath a vast open sky, covered by wind-bent grasses, low shrubs, and scattered coastal trees. The ocean rolls steadily beyond them, leaving shining bands of wet sand with every tide. Birds cross the horizon, and small animals move through the vegetation. Season after season, the landscape changes only through nature. The grasses grow and fade. Storms reshape the dunes. Winters pass, and spring returns. For centuries, the coastline remains quiet, open, and completely dominated by the sea. Then, slowly, human life enters the frame. Small groups of indigenous people move through the coastal landscape, following familiar paths between the dunes and shoreline. Baskets are carried toward the water. Plants are gathered. Shellfish are collected. And fish are brought back from the shallows. Temporary shelters appear in sheltered areas, then disappear with the seasons. Small fires glow beneath the evening sky as thin smoke rises into the wind. The land remains overwhelmingly wild, but these repeated movements begin leaving subtle marks, paths through the grass, cleared patches, and places visited again and again by generations. Those paths become more established. Small clusters of shelters gradually appear in protected areas, surrounded by gathered materials and tools. Canoes move along the waterways, while people travel between the shoreline and their camps. The dunes still dominate the scene, but human presence is no longer temporary in the same way. Generation after generation passes, and the same coastline continues to support life. The camera remains fixed, while the landscape slowly reveals the first signs of permanence. Centuries later, unfamiliar shapes begin appearing far across the water. European sailing ships pass along the horizon, their wooden hulls moving slowly through the Atlantic. Smaller boats approach the coast, bringing unfamiliar travelers, clothing, and objects. For a long time, these changes remain distant and occasional. The indigenous landscape continues around the camera, but the rhythm of the coastline is beginning to shift as new people and new forms of movement reach the region. Permanent settlement eventually begins taking shape. Rough wooden structures appear across the landscape, connected by narrow dirt paths. Fences divide small areas of land. Carts move along sandy tracks, and modest homes begin replacing some of the temporary structures. Trees are cleared selectively. Timber is stacked beside buildings, and smoke rises from simple chimneys. The ocean remains unchanged in the distance, but the wilderness surrounding it is slowly becoming a coastal settlement. Through the 19th century, that settlement grows steadily. More wooden houses appear, roads become clearer, and horse-drawn wagons begin moving regularly through the streets. Sandy ground is flattened and cleared for construction. Larger buildings rise among the homes as visitors begin arriving specifically for the coast. What was once an open stretch of dunes now contains roads, buildings, people, and transportation. The Atlantic remains exactly where it has always been, but the land beside it is becoming increasingly crowded. Then Atlantic City begins its transformation into a resort. Hotels rise rapidly, their wooden facades and elaborate Victorian details replacing modest homes. Horse-drawn carriages fill the streets while visitors arrive carrying luggage. Along the shoreline, a wooden walkway gradually extends across the beach, the beginning of the famous Boardwalk. Shops, signs, pathways, and hotels slowly surround it. The empty coastline has become a destination, and the number of people moving through the frame grows with every passing decade. The boardwalk becomes larger and more sophisticated. Grand hotels rise behind it, decorated with balconies, ornate facades, awnings, and tall windows. Restaurants, shops, and entertainment buildings multiply. Horse-drawn transportation increasingly gives way to automobiles, while electric lights begin illuminating the streets after sunset. Families and vacationers crowd the boardwalk, transforming the shoreline into one of America's most recognizable resort environments. By the early 20th century, Atlantic City enters its golden age. Massive hotels dominate the skyline, while automobiles, streetcars, pedestrians, theaters, restaurants, and amusement attractions fill the streets. the boardwalk becomes a continuous stream of visitors. Beach umbrellas cover the sand, signs glow above storefronts, and entertainment surrounds the waterfront. After dark, thousands of electric lights transform the coastline into a brilliant corridor of activity, with the dark Atlantic stretching beyond it. The growth continues for decades. New buildings replace older ones. Amusement rides rise higher above the boardwalk, and entertainment venues become increasingly elaborate. Cars fill wider streets, while the architecture gradually shifts from ornate, Victorian styles toward more modern 20th century designs. The city becomes a major American entertainment destination, with crowds filling both the beach and boardwalk. From the fixed viewpoint, the transformation is unmistakable. What began as wilderness is now a dense resort city, but eventually, the momentum slows. Other vacation destinations attract visitors, and some of Atlantic City's grand hotels begin losing their former brilliance. Older buildings are demolished, altered, or left to deteriorate. Empty storefronts appear beside busy attractions, and parts of the boardwalk become quieter. Weathered facades and aging signs reveal the effects of time and changing tastes. The same coastline that once seemed endlessly crowded begins showing the first visible signs of decline. Then the skyline changes again. Casino gambling arrives, and construction reshapes entire sections of the city. Older blocks are cleared as enormous foundations spread across the landscape. Steel frameworks climb higher and higher, eventually becoming towering casino hotels behind the historic boardwalk. Giant signs and neon lights transform the city's nighttime appearance. Traffic increases, visitors return, and the skyline becomes dramatically larger. Atlantic City is entering a completely new era. The casino boom reaches its height as massive hotel towers surround the coastline. Glass, concrete, steel, neon, parking structures, restaurants, and entertainment venues fill the city. At night, enormous signs glow above the boardwalk while crowds move beneath them. Wet pavement reflects the lights, windows shimmer across the skyline, and the ocean remains dark beyond the towers. Yet, older buildings still survive between the new structures, creating visible layers of history within the same fixed frame. In the 21st century, another change begins. Some casino towers remain enormous and brightly illuminated, while others become quieter or close. Empty properties appear beside renovated hotels. Buildings are demolished, streets are rebuilt, and construction cranes repeatedly rise and disappear. The boardwalk continues carrying visitors along the coast, but the landscape now contains both the legacy of the casino boom and visible reminders of economic decline. Today, Atlantic City exists as a mixture of all these eras. Historic boardwalk structures stand beside enormous casino resorts, renovated hotels, restaurants, shops, entertainment venues, and modern apartments. Cars move through busy streets while visitors gather along the waterfront. The beach remains open beneath the skyline, and the Atlantic Ocean continues rolling beyond the city, just as it did thousands of years ago. As daylight fades, lights begin appearing across the modern skyline, one by one. The boardwalk glows, casino towers illuminate the horizon, and reflections spread across the streets while the ocean darkens beyond them. Beneath the modern buildings are the streets of the resort era. Beneath those streets are the traces of earlier settlements. And beneath everything lies the same coastal sand, dunes, and shoreline that existed long before Atlantic City had a name. From an untouched Atlantic coast to a world-famous casino destination, the landscape has changed almost beyond recognition. Yet the ocean remains, watching over every era.